Hello, my name is Grin, and this is my beard. Today, the topic I want to talk about is something I saw on YouTube. During my daily routine of checking news and what people are posting. I saw a video about a study. It's a pretty old study now, but I still want to talk over it or talk about it. It is the study is. Let me get this. The study is women can judge sexual unfaithfulness from unfamiliar men's faces. Uh, Basically, they showed unfamiliar faces of men to women and asked them to judge whether or not they thought those men were unfaithful or cheating on their spouses or girlfriends, whatever. And then they showed women's faces to men and did the same thing. And I think this study is really it's interesting, but it's kind of flawed in a way. And basically, the findings of the study was that women were more adept at finding men who were unfaithful just by their faces than men were at finding women who were unfaithful. And uh, let me explain how this is how it works. They just showed different faces, asked them if they think these people are unfaithful or cheating, or are cheaters, and they would judge them from a certain level. Um, and the women were correlatively more likely to predict accurately than the women or than the men. So the women were like pretty high. It was like somewhere between 70 to 80% uh, correct, and the men were somewhere around 23% correct. Now, statistically, if it's just random, it would be around 50%. So if it's above 50%, the more above 50% it is, the more likely there is an actual uh, correlation or causation or anything, something. There's something there that is statistically significant, and vice versa the other way around. If it's less, then it shows that statistically significant deprivation of ability, so to speak. So, so the men were very unlikely to look at a woman's face and see that were believe that they were unfaithful, whereas the women were very likely to just look at a man's face and see that he was unfaithful. Now, the problem with this study is we're talking about separating the men and the women, whereas there's no control group. So I think it's a really big missed opportunity to not ask the women to judge the other women and for the men to judge the other men as well. It seems like that would probably have the same result. My hypothesis is that all men are easier to judge whether or not they are unfaithful than women. And there's a very good reason for that, in my opinion, in my hypothesis. You see, men and women have different modes of existence. In order for any life to continue its existence, it has to procreate, it has to create progeny, it has to have babies and raise those babies to have more babies. If the species cannot do that, then they will disappear. That's just how it is. If you can't have more babies coming in, then the they will die out and nothing is there to replace them and they're gone. So the prime directive of any living creature is to create more and to continue its progeny. Now, women do that by finding a suitable mate that not only provides good genetic uh, uh, structure, maybe a good physique, intelligence, uh, good looks, things like that, but also by finding a man who can produce or provide resources that allow the children to be successful. So the man's job for a woman is to provide the seed and provide the resources needed for the children. Uh, a, a man's job is to have as many children as possible. So a man can have 1,000,000 kids. That's possible. It is possible, not probable, but a man can just have as many children as possible. And by that, just going by the numbers, the more children a man has with multiple women, the more likely one of those children will be successful and uh, be better than the rest or continue the line of succession. So men and women have completely not opposite, but just different modes of fulfilling that prime directive of life. In that case, it, obviously, if men are required to, by nature, produce as many offspring as possible in order to be successful, then the men who are more likely to have as many children as possible are going to be the ones that do. And what are the criteria for a man to be successful in convincing a woman to have sex with him? Well, one of the main things is looks. The better a man looks, the more handsome and sexually appealing they are, the more likely they are to convince a woman to have sex with them. Versus a woman, she doesn't really need to have lots of partners in order to be successful. In fact, having a lot of partners would make it probably less likely that the child would be successful due to infighting with the different fathers. So it's more important for them to be faithful to the one who is going to provide for their children. Um, doesn't mean that it always works that way. Obviously, women will choose what they choose, and men will choose what they choose. But the prime directive of continuing the species has pressure on their attitudes or their choices in life. So women are more likely to choose one man who will provide for them and give their children the possibility of the most success. And men will try to have as many children as possible in hopes that one of those children will be highly successful. So I think if you looked at or did this same study where you asked also the women to judge the women, they would probably be just as bad at judging women's unfaithfulness as men are at judging women's unfaithfulness just by their face. And vice versa. I think men would probably be even better at judging a man's unfaithfulness just by looking at their face. That's kind of my hypothesis. Yeah, okay, that is my hypothesis. The way it is men, in order to uh, fulfill their prime directive, they need to have as many children as possible to beat the numbers, to beat the odds, and have one of those children be successful. Whereas women require, since they can't have tons and tons of babies. They can't have a baby with every man. They can only have one baby every 9 months, probably more than that. So they need somebody who's going to provide for those children, and it wouldn't be good for them to keep changing different men. So yeah, I think this study really misses the mark in that, and it's kind of yeah, of course, kind of thing. Oh well, this study was done in 2012, 2013, when it was published. As you can say, it was published in 2013, printed in 2013, and other similar other similar articles like sexual unfaithfulness can be judged with some accuracy from men's but not women's faces. You see, again, that only goes to the point where women are judging men and men are judging women, where they should have a control group where women are also judging women and men are also judging men. And that didn't happen. So I think this study really needs to have that in order to, give a better idea of what is actually going on here. It's just, to me, common sense. Men who are better looking, more successful, have more money, are more likely to have more sexual partners than women who are equally successful or beautiful in the same regards. So that's what was on my mind today. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts, and I hope you consider these hypotheses. Bye now.